My wife said it was only a mistake, while the divorce papers waited signed on the kitchen table. She didn't reach for them, that's the thing that stuck with me. She just stood there at the edge of the tiles, her hands wrapped around a mug she hadn't drunk from in 10 minutes, eyes red and shiny, staring at the manila folder like it might bite. The pen I'd used was still where I left it, perfectly parallel to the edge of the table because my brain apparently still cares about neatness even as my life is falling apart. The fridge hummed. The clock above the stove clicked over another minute. My heartbeat was loud enough in my ears that it felt like it belonged to someone else. It was only a mistake, she said again, softer this time, like if she changed the volume it would change the meaning. I watched her thumb run over a chip in the mug's handle, the one she'd always complained about but never thrown out. Her shoulders trembled once, quickly, then stilled. Ryan, please, you've signed them, you proved your point. Can we just talk now? It was a Monday night. I remember that because there was a half-written meal plan on the whiteboard behind her that still said moan, stir fry, in her messy handwriting. We'd never gotten around to making it. Instead, I'd gone straight from work to the lawyer, sat in a room that smelled like old carpet and printer ink, and put my name on the line that legally ended 12 years of us. I drove home with the envelope on the passenger seat, hands gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles ached, and put it on the table without taking off my shoes. I'm 36, she's 35. Her name is Alyssa. We met when we were 23 and 22 at a trivia night in some crappy bar where the carpet stuck to your shoes. Our team was losing terribly because my friends and I were good at movie quotes and useless at everything else. The quizmaster asked something about the capital of some random European country, and from the table behind us this girl with dark hair and a laugh like a cough yelled, "It's Ljubljana, you animals." 5 minutes later she was at our table because the bar was busy and she needed somewhere to perch while she waited for a drink. She corrected our spelling of Ljubljana on the answer sheet. I corrected her pronunciation of Scorsese. We argued about which Die Hard is the best one. I wrote my number on the back of a coaster. She pretended to lose it, then texted me a photo of it 3 days later with "You spelled your own name wrong." I hadn't. It sounds cheesy when I describe it now, but it really did feel easy with her from the start. We didn't have some intense, dramatic fireworks story. We had cheap dumplings, late-night walks, fights over whether pineapple belongs on pizza, it does, stupid inside jokes about pigeons. 4 years of dating turned into a small wedding in her aunt's backyard, fairy lights strung between trees, my brother DJing from his laptop. We bought a rundown townhouse in the western suburbs, and spent weekends sanding floorboards and arguing about paint colors, and feeling very proud of ourselves for knowing words like skirting boards. There are no kids in this story. That's both a blessing and its own kind of grief. We talked about them, sure. After the reno, we said, then after the promotion, then after we've traveled a bit more. We froze the idea in future us, like a screenshot. Alyssa works in events for a mid-sized hotel chain. She's one of those terrifyingly organized people who can juggle 10 timelines in her head at once and still remember your cousin's birthday. Her job, as she always explained it, was making other people's big days happen without anyone noticing the backstage chaos. Weddings, conferences, corporate retreats. She lived in a world of RSVPs and floor plans, and people who send emails at 11:59 p.m. panicking about dietary requirements. I'm a structural engineer. If you drive over a bridge in our city and it doesn't fall down, there's a small chance I had something to do with it. I like calculations and things that make sense. I like load paths and safety factors. There's comfort in knowing that, given the right numbers, the world behaves predictably. Marriage, as it turns out, does not behave like a beam under load. The cracks didn't start with an affair. They started with emails, with just a few more things to finish tonight. With her phone lighting up at midnight on the bedside table and her groaning, rolling over, muttering, "If I don't reply now, the whole thing's going to blow up tomorrow." Event season was always rough. There'd be stretches where I felt like I saw more of her name in my messages than I did of her in person. This last year, though, it felt like event season never really stopped. There was always a big conference next month, always a corporate gala we're pitching for, always a "this one could be really big for my portfolio, right?" Enter Nathan. I knew his name long before I knew who he was. Nathan wants the lighting plan by Thursday. Nathan's being weird about budgets. Nathan's PA keeps changing the run sheet. I assumed for a long time that he was just another faceless client. It's weird, thinking about that now, how ordinary his name sounded before everything attached to it. The first time I actually met him was at a charity gala Alyssa was running at one of her hotels. They had spare tickets, she said. It would be nice to have me there for once, instead of just describing things after. She wore this navy dress I loved, the one with the low back. I wore a suit I pulled out for weddings and funerals. "Come meet the client," she said, fingers looped through mine as she dragged me across the ballroom. Try not to tell any of your bridge collapse jokes. He's very into safety compliance. Nathan was taller than me, which I noticed and immediately hated myself for noticing. Late 40s, tanned in that ski holidays way, wearing a suit that made my off-the-rack one feel like a school uniform. He had that particular kind of confidence that rich men get when they've been the boss for so long they forget what it's like not to be listened to. Alyssa's long-suffering husband, she said, tugging me forward. Ryan, this is Nathan Chang. Nathan, this is the guy who convinced me to buy a house with 1970s plumbing. Nathan laughed, shook my hand with that firm grip people practice in mirrors. Good to finally meet you, he said. Your wife's a machine. We'd be screwed without her. There are a lot of ways to praise someone's work. We'd be screwed without her is one of them. It shouldn't have sounded like anything but a compliment. Maybe in another timeline it wouldn't have. He said some innocuous small talk about the seating layout, joked about being the guy they blame if the speeches run long. Alyssa got pulled away by someone panicking about the AV system. I ended up at the bar talking to another spouse about football. Looking back, I don't think there was a single lightning bolt moment where I thought, she's going to cheat. It was more like a series of small, uncomfortably warm realizations that something was off. Like the way her Nathan stories shifted over time. At first it was about work, his impossible requests, his habit of changing his mind on themes at the last minute, how he somehow always had time for just a quick call when she was already 10 tasks deep. Then it started to include little personal details. Nathan's wife is a surgeon, she said once, rinsing dishes after dinner. She's never home, apparently. He basically lives at the office. Nathan used to be in a band, another time. He showed me these ridiculous photos from the 90s. Long hair, eyeliner, the whole thing. I told him there's no way he ever looked that cool. Nathan brought his kids to the site visit today. The little one spilled juice on the sample linens. It was chaos. They were all normal work things, on the surface. The kind of things you share with your partner as proof that you have a life outside them. But there was a warmth when she said his name that made something prickly settle in my chest. I tried to be rational. People work closely together. They get to know each other. It doesn't automatically mean anything. And I trust Alyssa, I told myself. I did. For 11.5 years, I really did. The first time the word mistake entered our orbit, it was about something else entirely. We were at a friend's barbecue, one of those afternoons where everyone brings a salad or a bag of chips, and there are too many kids and not enough chairs. Alyssa had one glass of wine too many, and ended up talking to my mate Josh's new girlfriend about relationship blips. I kissed someone at a bar once, she confessed, eyes wide like she was telling a ghost story. Years ago before we got married, some random, I was drunk, it was stupid, a mistake. I told Ryan the next day and he got mad for like an hour and then we ordered pizza. Right, babe. She turned to me, grinning. There was a smear of humus on her plate. Josh's girlfriend looked expectant, probably thinking this was cute. I forced a smile. Yeah, I said, ancient history. She had told me it was a month before our wedding, actually. Hen's night, cheap cocktails, some guy leaning in too close on the dance floor. She came home at 2 am crying, woke me up, blurted it out in one breath. I'm sorry I kissed someone, it meant nothing, I was drunk, please don't call off the wedding. I'd been gutted, then relieved it wasn't worse. Then smug maybe that we could have our mistake pre-marriage and move on stronger. In hindsight, that was pretty naive. We're humans, she'd said that night at the barbecue, gesturing with her wine glass, almost sloshing Chardonnay on the deck. We make mistakes. It's about what you do after, right? What she did after in that case was cry, confess, and never see the guy again. What she did after Nathan was different. Last October, she landed what she called the white whale of gigs, a 3-day corporate retreat for Nathan's company at a fancy resort a couple of hours out of town. Big budget, lots of moving parts, execs flying in. She was buzzing for weeks, staying up late scribbling notes, rearranging post-its on our fridge. They're trusting me with everything, she said, half thrilled, half terrified. Accommodation, activities, the gala dinner, even the stupid team-building exercise. Please tell me you're making them do a trust fall over the pool, I said. I suggested a ropes course and they looked at me like I'd suggested group therapy, she snorted. We're doing a cooking challenge instead. Leadership through risotto, kill me. The retreat was from Wednesday to Saturday. She'd be staying on-site, she said, because it would be ridiculous to drive back and forth. She packed her suitcase with a mix of business clothes and casual resort wear, whatever that means, and left on Wednesday morning with 3 different chargers and a binder full of run sheets. I'll be flat out, she warned, kissing me quickly at the door. Don't be weird if I don't reply much, okay? When have I ever been weird? I said. She smirked. You keep your socks in color order. That's weird, babe. The first day, she texted me photos of the setup. Fairy lights over a deck, name tags lined up, a coffee cart with her company's logo, a selfie of her in a high-vis vest riding on the back of a golf cart. "Living the dream," she wrote. "Don't forget us plebs when you're famous," I replied. Thursday, the messages slowed, a busy but killing it at lunchtime. "Are these people drink like they're 19 at 11 p.m. No reply when I wrote back, "Don't let them peer pressure you into karaoke." Friday, nothing until after midnight. I'd gone to bed around 11, my phone on the bedside table, screen lighting up the room every few minutes with some random notification. I woke up at 2:17 a.m. needing to pee and checked it. One message from her, timestamped 1:03 a.m. Sorry, just saw your text. Today was insane, but everything went well. Gala dinner was beautiful. I'm so tired I might die. Love you. I stared at it for a minute, thumb hovering over the keyboard. I typed, "Proud of you, sleep, love you too," and hit send. I lay there later, staring at the ceiling, trying to ignore the tiny voice asking why she was texting me after the gala that was run by her company, hosted at a resort where Nathan, the man who basically lives at their office, was also staying. It was the same logic loop. She works events, this is her job, she's exhausted. Don't be that husband. She came home Saturday afternoon looking wrecked. Hair up, no makeup, hoodie and leggings, eyes shadowed. "I feel like I've been run over by a golf cart," she groaned, dumping her suitcase by the door. "You look like it too," I said, trying to get a smile. She did smile, faintly. "Have I told you lately that you're a charmer?" We ordered Thai, watched 2 episodes of some baking show, and she fell asleep with her head on my lap before the credits rolled. She didn't mention Nathan once. It was small, but I remember noticing that. How, for weeks leading up to the retreat, his name had been constantly in her mouth, and now it was gone. I told myself she was just done with work talk. The first sign I couldn't explain away came 2 weeks later, on a Wednesday morning before work. I was doing my usual routine, make coffee, pack my lunch, check email. Alyssa's laptop was on the table from the night before. She'd been working on a proposal. I wasn't snooping. Genuinely wasn't, but when I moved it to wipe a coffee ring, the trackpad brushed my finger and the screen woke up. Her email was open, a draft, the subject line, "Ray about the other night." My stomach dropped. I know what that sounds like in a movie, but life isn't a movie. And there are a lot of completely innocent other nights in the world. My heart rate didn't care. I didn't read it, not then, I swear. I closed the laptop, wiped the table, told myself if I started going down that road, I'd never come back. When she came into the kitchen 10 minutes later, yawning, I kissed her and didn't say anything. I thought about that subject line all day. It dug into the back of my brain like a splinter. About the other night, not Wednesday's debrief, not follow-up from retreat, about the other night. I held out for 3 days. 3 days of pretending everything was fine, of half listening when she told me about a new client, of flinching whenever her phone buzzed. On Saturday, she left early to meet a friend for brunch. Her laptop was on the desk in the study. I walked past it 3 times before I sat down. I opened it. It didn't even need a password. We've always had each other's logins. That had once felt like intimacy. Now it felt like a loaded gun on the table. Her email was still open. I clicked search and typed, "Nathan," then stared at the 200+ results with my pulse pounding. I chose one from a week earlier. Subject: Ray, rooming list, Nathan Chang retreat. Her: "No worries, I'll make sure your suite is at the far end, so you don't hear the late-night bar crowd." Him: "You're a lifesaver. Guess that means I owe you a drink after all this is over." A dozen emails like that, flirty but plausible, winking emojis. "You're the best and don't tell the others I have a favorite planner." Then I saw the thread with the subject that had haunted me. About the other night. Her message most recent. I haven't stopped thinking about it either, and that's kind of the problem. I'm married, Nathan. I can't pretend it didn't happen, but I also can't do this, whatever this would be. I scrolled up with a shaking finger. Him. About the other night, I'm not sorry. I know I should be. I know it complicates things. But I meant what I said when I told you I haven't felt that way with anyone in years. Her again. You were drunk, I was exhausted, it shouldn't have happened. Him. I was drunk enough to be brave, not drunk enough to forget how you kissed me back. I stopped there, my vision had narrowed to a little tunnel. I reread those lines until the words blurred, how you kissed me back. I don't remember standing up, but suddenly I was packing the tiny study, one hand on my mouth, making these awful half-laughing sounds that didn't feel like they belonged to me. There's this thing that happens when a bridge fails. Sometimes you can watch the footage afterwards, slow motion, as a tiny crack becomes a collapse. That's what reading that felt like. Watching the thing I thought was solid shudder under a load I didn't know it was carrying. I didn't confront her immediately. I wish I could say I stormed into brunch and flipped tables, but that's not who I am. Instead, I closed the laptop, sat on the edge of our bed and just sat there for a long time. Part of me tried to lawyer my way out of it. It was a kiss, just a kiss. You survived this once before you were married. People mess up. We were drunk, she'd say, and we'd go to therapy and maybe this would be our big story of we came back stronger. Then I'd hear that line again, how you kissed me back. When she came home, I watched her with new eyes. The way she kicked her shoes off at the door, the way she sighed and said something about the cafe being too loud, the way she slid her phone onto the counter face down. Everything okay? I asked, trying to keep my voice normal. Yeah, she said, opening the fridge. Why? No reason, I said, just checking. We went on like that for 2 days, me knowing, her not knowing I knew. It was awful. I'd lie in bed next to her, listening to her breathe, and think, there's a version of reality in your head where I don't know you kissed someone else and you're acting according to that version. It felt like being a ghost in my own life. On Tuesday night, it broke. We were cleaning up after dinner. She was at the sink, sleeves rolled up, soap up to her wrists. I was drying plates. I don't remember what triggered it. Maybe nothing did. Maybe the trigger was 3 days of silence sitting on my chest. Did anything happen at the retreat? I asked. My voice came out too steady. She paused, plate in hand. What do you mean? Between you and Nathan, I said. The plate slipped a little in her grip. She didn't drop it, but her fingers tightened. She washed it too hard. Why would you ask that? She said without turning around. I put the towel down because I read your emails. She froze, water poured over her hands and down into the sink. For a moment, the only sound in the kitchen was the tap. Then she turned it off slowly and set the plate in the rack with exaggerated care. She turned to face me. Her face was blank in that way that is not blank at all. You went through my emails, she asked. That's what you're focusing on, I said. I could hear the thread in my voice fraying, not the fact that you kissed your client. She swallowed, her eyes flicked to the doorway like she was checking for an escape route. There wasn't one. It was a mistake, she said, the first time. We stood there 10 feet apart, our whole life between us. You told him you haven't stopped thinking about it, I said. You told him you can't do this. That implies that this is something more than just a drunken mistake, Alyssa. Her face crumpled, then smoothed. It was on the last night, she said. Everyone had gone to bed except a few of us. We were by the fire pit. There was wine. He started talking about his marriage being over in everything but name. I'd had too much. I felt appreciated, seen. One thing turned into another and he kissed me. I pulled away. You also kissed him back, I said. His words, not mine. She flinched. For a second, she said. It was reflex. I don't know. I stopped it. That isn't what you wrote, I said. You didn't correct him when he said that, Alyssa. You argued about what this is, not about whether you kissed him back. She wrapped her arms around herself. I panicked, she said. I was trying to shut it down without making it awkward for work. I didn't want to get anyone in trouble. I didn't want you to find out, I finished. Get hurt, she said at the same time. I was going to tell you. I swear I was. I just didn't know how. We argued for hours, the words blurred together. Trust, boundaries, drunk, mistake. It was only a kiss, she kept saying, like that was the magic phrase. It's not like we slept together. Do you want points for timing? I snapped at one point. You want me to say, oh good, you only betrayed me with your mouth. She cried, I cried. At one point we both laughed hysterically at something stupid, that broken kind of laugh you make when your nervous system is fried. She swore nothing else had happened. No hotel room, no hands under clothing. Just a kiss by a fire pit under a sky full of stars that we used to look at together. I felt wanted, she whispered at one point, cheeks wet. Not as Alyssa who gets shit done, but as me. It was like he was seeing this part of me I forgot I had. And I don't see you, I asked quietly. She closed her eyes. I don't know, she said. It's not your fault. It's not like you did something wrong and I ran to him. It was just there, the opportunity. I was tired and stupid and I made a mistake. There it was again, mistake. We decided no, I decided, and she eagerly agreed to try and work through it. The next day she drafted an email to Nathan, copying in her manager, saying that they needed to keep their relationship strictly professional and that she'd prefer not to be assigned to his account going forward. She showed it to me before she sent it. Is that okay? She asked. Does this help? It did a little. Seeing her put a boundary in writing made it feel less like I was the only one holding a line. Her manager replied with a generic, "Thank you for letting me know, of course, we'll reallocate," which both reassured and annoyed me. To them, it was just scheduling. To me, it was the perimeter fence around what was left of my trust. We started couples therapy. Wednesday nights, small room, 2 worn armchairs, tissue box like a sad centerpiece. The therapist, Amrita, had warm eyes and a notebook she rarely wrote in. "Why do you want to stay married?" she asked us in our second session. Alyssa said without hesitation, "Because I love him. Because this is the worst mistake I've ever made and I don't want it to define us." I hesitated. "Because I don't want this to be the end of our story," I said. It sounded rehearsed even to my ears. Amrita asked about our childhoods, about how conflict was handled in our families, about our expectations of marriage. I talked about my parents, still together, occasional sniping but mostly united front. Alyssa talked about hers, dad leaving when she was 10, mum dating a string of men who were allergic to honesty. "So when you say it was a mistake," Amrita asked Alyssa in one session, "what does that word mean to you?" Alyssa twisted the tissue in her hands. "Something that happened that shouldn't have," she said. "Something not planned, not really chosen, a blip." "And to you?" Amrita asked me. "It means the same thing as a choice," I said, just with regret afterwards. We stared at each other across the room, that gap between our definitions suddenly a chasm. The months after that were complicated. We had days where it almost felt like before, making breakfast together, sending each other dumb memes, her curling up against me on the couch with my arm around her. Then I'd see her glance at her phone a certain way, or she'd go quiet when a particular number called, and the air would thicken again. She insisted she wasn't talking to Nathan anymore. "He's still in my inbox sometimes," she admitted, "for work stuff that overlaps, but I keep it short, I promise." She let me see some of those emails. They were icy, professional, no emojis. But there were other things, little omissions. A work drinks she forgot to mention until after, a late night in the office that became 2 then 3. One Friday, 5 months after the retreat, she came home later than usual, makeup slightly smudged, smelling of stale wine. "Sorry," she said, kicking her heels off by the door. "We did team bonding." She made air quotes. "With who?" I asked, trying to keep my voice light. "New client," she said, "and some of the managers." She walked past me to the bathroom, already unhooking her earrings. Something in the way she said it made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. The next morning when she went out to grab coffee, her phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. I hadn't asked for her passwords in months. I hated myself for even considering it, but I picked it up, thumb hovering, then pressed her code. My hands were sweating. There were no messages from Nathan. That should have been a relief. Instead, there were 30 messages in a muted WhatsApp group titled Friday Fiasco. Memes, photos of coworkers doing shots, someone passed out on a couch. Alyssa had sent a photo of herself and 2 colleagues, arms around each other, mouths open in a cheer. Below that, a private chat from a number saved as N. Not Nathan, a different N. N 9:47 p.m. Still can't believe you did that. Alyssa, I didn't do anything, gravity did. N, you poured the drink on him, I'm dead. Alyssa, he deserved it, hand on my back like that, N, glad you've still got standards. Alyssa, learned my lesson last time. Learned my lesson last time. I put the phone down like it was hot. I stared at the pattern in the granite countertop for a full minute. Then I picked the phone up again and scrolled further back. N was Nina, one of her coworkers, not Nathan. They were venting about sleazy clients, about office politics. It wasn't what I thought it was. The last time was clearly about Nathan. She told someone at work something at least. I should have felt reassured that she called what happened with him, losing her standards, in a private message. Instead, all I felt was tired. It's exhausting trying to rebuild trust while also policing your own paranoia. Every time something looked slightly off, I'd have to decide, is this my trauma talking, or is this a real red flag? Some days I gave her the benefit of the doubt. Some days I didn't. Eventually, it got to a point where even if she was being perfectly faithful in the present, I was still living in the echo of that kiss by the fire pit. In our 9th therapy session, Amrita asked us a question that, in hindsight, was the pivot. "Ryan," she said, "do you believe today that Alyssa's behavior matches someone who is committed to rebuilding trust?" I looked at her. Alyssa's eyes were rimmed red. She'd been crying about how I kept punishing her for one mistake. I thought about the emails she'd shown me, the boundaries she'd tried to set. I also thought about the nights she got defensive when I asked simple questions, about how often she used the word overreacting when I said I was hurt. I think she wants to be that person, I said slowly, but I don't know if she knows how, or if she wants it enough to be uncomfortable. Alyssa made a noise like I'd slapped her. That's not fair, she said. I stopped working directly with him. I told my boss. I came to therapy. I don't know what else I can do without you reading my mind. You could have not kissed him, I said. Her face hardened. I can't go back and change that, she said. All I can do is apologize and move forward. How many times do I have to say I'm sorry? Amrita watched us silently for a moment. Then she said, gently, sometimes, even when both people are trying, the injury is too deep for the relationship to return to what it was. That doesn't mean anyone is a monster. It just means the system that used to hold you is different now. I heard what she was saying. Alyssa didn't, not fully. That night we had another fight. I don't even remember what started it. Something small, my phone lighting up with a message from a female coworker, her making a joke about your turn to have a work affair. I didn't laugh. Too soon, she said, and when I didn't answer, her shoulders tensed. You can't take a joke anymore. It's not a joke, I said. We went from there to full-scale war in 3 exchanges. At one point she yelled, it was only a mistake, so loud the glassware rattled. Only a mistake, I repeated low. You keep saying that like it decreases the impact. Like calling it only makes it smaller in my head. It doesn't. What do you want to do then? She demanded. End this, throw everything away because I got drunk and kissed someone once. I don't know what I want, I said, which was the most honest thing I'd said all week. I just know that every time you call it only, it feels like you're minimizing the part of me that got crushed. We slept back to back that night. We'd done that more lately. There's a particular kind of loneliness that comes from being 6 inches from someone you used to wrap yourself around and feeling like they're on another continent. 2 weeks later, I called a lawyer. I didn't tell her right away. I booked an appointment for my lunch break, sat in a too-bright office while a woman in a pantsuit explained no-fault divorce and property division and separation periods like she was talking about someone else. I felt strangely calm, like I was doing a structural assessment on my own marriage. Load exceeded, fatigue failure, demolition recommended. Back home, I printed the papers. I sat at our kitchen table, the same one we'd eaten hundreds of meals at, and signed my name where it told me to. It felt underwhelming. I half expected some physical sensation, like a shudder, a crack of thunder. Instead, it was just pen on paper, my signature looking suddenly unfamiliar. That's where we were when I opened this story. Alyssa in the doorway, me at the table, divorce papers between us. She saw the envelope as soon as she walked in. Her eyes flicked to it, then to my face. What's that? She asked, even though I think she already knew. Divorce application, I said. I've signed my part. Color drained from her face so fast it was like watching someone pull a plug. She dropped her bag on the floor with a dull thud. You're joking, she said. I shook my head, my mouth was dry. She stepped forward slowly, like she was approaching a wild animal. When she reached the table, she put her hand on the envelope but didn't pick it up. Ryan, she whispered, don't do this. I'm not doing anything, I said. I'm just acknowledging what's already happened. She blinked hard. We've been trying, she said. We're in therapy. I've been doing everything I can. Have you? I asked quietly. Her eyes flashed. Yes, she said. Have you? I looked at her, really looked. At the dark circles under her eyes, at the little line between her brows that had deepened this year, at the wedding ring on her finger, which she was twisting back and forth like she might unscrew the whole situation. I've been trying to forgive you, I said, which apparently in your head means pretending I'm not still bleeding. That's not fair, she said. You've been distant, punishing. Maybe, I said. Maybe I don't know how to forgive someone who keeps telling me the thing that broke me was only anything. That's when she said it. It was only a mistake again, but this time with that edge of desperation. I gestured at the papers. And this, I said, is the consequence of that mistake. Silence settled like dust. She sank into a chair opposite me, finally setting the mug down. If you send those in, she said, voice shaking, that's it, there's no going back. There hasn't been a way back for a while, I said. We've just been pretending there is. She started crying then, really crying, not the angry tears from our fights, but this raw, shocked sobbing that made my chest ache. I don't want to lose you, she choked out. You should have thought of that before you kissed him, I said, and immediately hated myself for how cruel it sounded, even though I meant it. She wiped her eyes with her palms. Do you want me to beg? She asked. Because I will. I'll quit my job. I'll never speak to another man again. No, I cut in sharply. I don't want that. I don't want a version of you under house arrest. I want the version who didn't feel like kissing someone else was on the table in the first place. And she's gone. We sat there for a long time. At some point, the sky outside the window turned from dusky blue to full dark. The neighbor's porch light flicked on. Somewhere down the street, someone revved a motorbike. Do you love me? She asked eventually in this small voice. Yes, I said, because lying felt pointless. I do, that's not the issue. Then why aren't you fighting for us? She whispered. I have been, I said, since the day I opened your laptop. I've been fighting my own brain, my own pride, my own fear. I've been sitting in therapy rooms and reading books and trying to contort myself into someone who can live with this. I'm just tired, Alyssa. I don't want the rest of my life to be measured in trust recalibration. She stared at the papers, at my signature. So that's it, she said. One mistake and I lose everything. I thought about correcting her, about pointing out that it wasn't just the kiss, it was the lies, the minimizing, the only. Instead I said, you don't lose everything. You lose this version of everything. In the end, she didn't sign that night. She slid the envelope back toward me. I need time, she said. And weirdly, I gave it to her. I put the papers in the drawer by the fridge, next to the warranty for the dishwasher and some takeout menus. For 3 weeks we lived in this eerie in-between, not together, not apart. Some nights we cooked dinner together. Some nights she slept in the spare room. We went to one more therapy session, where I told Amrita about the papers and Alyssa stared at her knees. Sometimes acceptance looks like letting go, Amrita said quietly. I filed the papers with the court a month later. She signed by then. We were in the kitchen again, a different night, a different set of dishes in the sink. She picked up the pen with a hand that only trembled a little, scribbled her name, and then walked out onto the balcony and smoked a cigarette for the first time since I'd known her. We're in the mandatory separation period now. 6 months of being legally married and actually not. I moved into a small 2-bedroom unit near the river. The first night, I slept on a mattress on the floor and listened to the hum of a different fridge and thought about how quiet it was without her snoring softly on the other side of the bed. People ask what happened. I give them the edited version. She messed up, I say. We tried, it wasn't enough. I don't mention the emails or the fire pit or the word only lodged in my ribs. Some days I miss her so much I have to sit down. I miss her laugh, the way she'd shimmy to bad pop songs while cooking, the way she always stole the warm spot on the couch. I miss having a person to text when something stupid happens at work. Other days I feel lighter. I notice that I'm not hyper-aware of someone else's phone buzzing anymore. I realize I can go a whole day without that subtle clench in my stomach that had become my default. Alyssa and I still talk sometimes. Logistics mostly. There's no yelling now, just a sort of exhausted civility. Once she said, I'll spend the rest of my life regretting that night. I know, I said, and I'll spend the rest of mine wishing I didn't. If there's a point to this post, I guess it's this. People will tell you affairs are just mistakes, like spilling coffee or taking the wrong exit. But some mistakes aren't spilled milk, they're like drilling through load-bearing walls. You can patch and reinforce and put up new beams, but sometimes the structure is never the same. I don't think Alyssa is evil. She's not some cartoon villain. She's a person who got lost in feeling desired and made a choice that blew up something good. I'm a person who tried very hard to forgive and hit the limit of what I can live with. Both of those things can be true. So when she says it was only a mistake, I don't argue anymore. I just know that for me, only is doing a lot of heavy lifting in that sentence, and I've spent enough time living under more weight than I can safely hold.